On. Oh, listening audience, do I have a treat for you? I mean, I'm telling you the truth. That Carol Hector Harris is something else. I mean, anybody that knows that she does research with a purpose, everything she does. I mean, her research not only helps her family or whatever she's researching, it helps the entire community. And I am so honored to be able to introduce Carol to you. She is a stellar journalist, does investigative reporting, and then she has taught at Ohio University. She's worked for FEMA. She's done documentaries in the Caribbean, and just, I mean, you name it. She's been out there working in our community. I was glad she came back because her journalism skills are just it's just awesome. And so now she's helping her family. You know what? It's so good when when you can give the skills that you learn in school and give it back to your family and back to your community. But wait, you got to hear Carol's story. You got to hear it. Carol, how are you today?
I'm great. Thank you for having me, Lonnie. It's an honor to be here.
Well, it's an honor to have you. You know, I want the listening audience to hear your story. Now, I understand that you start researching your family and you found out some interesting things. But before you would find out about those interesting things, why did you start doing your family history?
Well, I was the youngest among all of my siblings. And,
Hmm.
I noticed as I was a young kid, a lot of the seniors, a lot of the elders in the family were passing away. And I'm telling you, these are people that I love so much, had so much fun with. They had a great sense of humor, a great personality. I just adored them. And they
Hmm.
were passing away, and I didn't have the chance to spend as much time with them as my siblings did. So
Hmm.
when I noticed that my grandmother had written in the family Bible the dates, what the weather was like on the days that her cousins and her siblings were born, I thought, boy, when I saw those names, I recognized them as people that I heard the elders talk about if they
Hmm.
weren't still alive at the time when I was real little. So I was just missing these people. And I thought it would be good to know where they were in the family on the family tree. Because
Hmm.
I knew these people, but not know exactly who was related to who and how. Because we were calling everybody aunt this and uncle that,
Yeah.
so you know how we are.
Yeah, we call the
So,
neighbors aunties.
yes.
Everybody was an auntie.
Yeah, so I thought, well, let me do a family tree so I know who's who and what's what. And I really started missing my family when I moved to Columbus when I got married, because I was born and raised in Boston, raised in the Roxbury section of the city. And
Mhm,
once I got married and moved to Columbus, I had no family here and I
mhm,
was missing them. So that's another reason why I got on to doing the family tree. And that information my grandmother put in the family Bible was a great head start. It
mhm,
really was.
mhm. Now, as you were doing your family tree, what did you find out that you didn't know about your family?
Well, some of the people that my grandmother talked about, like her grandfather, she loved all of her family members, but she loved her grandfather and was very proud of the fact that he served in the revolution. I mean, not the revolution, the Civil War. And she told me that there was a street named after him in the Hyde Park section of the city,
Mhm,
and he had a farm on that street.
mhm,
And I started researching him and other people in the community who had served in the Civil War along with him. And a lot of them were prominent men, or they came from prominent families. Because listen to this, Lonnie, he
mhm,
was in the Massachusetts 5th Cavalry. He
mhm.
wasn't in the infantry. And in order to be in the cavalry, you had to bring your own horse. I thought they would have been given a horse if they
Yeah,
were
it
going to
looked
be,
like they
but
would gave him a horse.
yeah, but they had to bring their own. So that meant that the family had to have the money, the wherewithal to
Mm,
support them with what they needed in order to be in that cavalry. So I found that part out. I knew he was in the cavalry, but I didn't know that the families had to be kind of well-to-do. A lot of them had businesses that catered
mm,
to the Black community, and that's how they were able to afford to pay for their sons' enlistment in
mm,
the cavalry.
mm,
So it was knowing a piece. Every time I got started on someone, I would know something about them. But in the research, and then when you research, you want to know something about their contemporary history.
mhm,
So what was it like when they were alive? So you start reading the history of that
mhm,
point in time and trying to situate them as African people in that day and time. So
mhm,
I found out a lot of that kind of information that really helped me see my family and situate them in a point in time and know something about what their lived experience was like.
Well, that makes you connect with history too, didn't you? I mean, history makes more sense when you can find something that you can connect with. It sounds like you were almost in the history books with your family when you were doing the research.
Absolutely. And growing up, as braggadocious as the city of Boston is, you would have thought that they would have really publicized the involvement of these African men
Mhm,
in the Civil War.
mhm,
They they really didn't.
mhm.
They
But
really didn't. And then much, 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 many years later, I
mhm.
found out that we had an ancestor that served in the Revolutionary War. He was a founder
What?
of this nation. Can you imagine?
Oh
I,
my God!
honest to God, I almost fell out when I found
You
out.
you are American history. I mean, from the
Now, isn't
revolution.
that the truth? And people have the nerve to have made me think at a certain point in time that I did not belong. But then to find out that you have an ancestor who was a founder of the nation, he didn't have to join the Patriots. He could have
Mhm,
been a loyalist and been on
mhm,
the side of the British, but
mhm,
he didn't.
mhm.
He was on the side of the why did he pick that? Makes me wonder. So then you want to read the history of what was
Yeah.
going on at the time and why people would make the choices that they made. But
Mhm.
the more I did the research about him, I found that he had served in West Point with George Washington. And
Oh my
in
gosh.
the record, it didn't say George Washington, it said the conductor. But he
Uh-huh.
was called the conductor of the war at the time, because remember, he couldn't be president yet because
Mhm,
there was no
mhm,
country. But he was
mhm.
George Washington, and he served with him in West Point and was with Benedict Arnold when Benedict Arnold walked away from his post.
Oh
I
my
I'm
gosh.
telling you,
Oh
I
my gosh.
I just couldn't believe it.
And you know what? We would never have thought that black people were there except for
No,
just
because
besides
the
him.
only person we heard about
But,
was Crispus Attucks,
yes.
and there was no war even at that point in time.
Mhm,
It's the British were there, and
mhm,
these people didn't like living under the king's rule.
mhm.
We weren't told about any Africans being in the revolution at
Mhm.
all. And
No.
there I am growing up right in Boston. They talked about the Revolutionary War, of course, but
Mhm,
never a peep about the Africans who served. And come to find out, the Daughters of the American Revolution,
mhm,
they published a book with all of well, not even all,
mhm.
but most of the indigenous and African soldiers who were in the Revolutionary War.
Wow.
And I mean, I still look at that book. I bought that book
Mhm,
and I look
mhm,
at that book and I can't believe it. But in addition to this one man, we found 11 other ancestors who served in that war, and also found out that this man, the first one we found, he was born in what was then the Gold Coast and
mhm,
is Ghana today. So I ended
mhm.
up going to Ghana looking for the family, hoping I would find the family. I'm a daughter of the 60s.
Yes,
And
yes.
when James Brown said we were black and we were proud, Lonnie, I was
Mm,
black and proud. So in
yeah.
addition to looking for my own ancestors, I
Mm.
was hoping to find an Africa-born ancestor. You know,
Did you find them?
I did.
What?
He is the
How
first
and how were
one.
you greeted when they found out who you were?
Well, they were surprised,
Uh,
shocked, really, as shocked as I was to find them.
wow.
When I got to Ghana, it was part of a study abroad program from Ohio University when I was
Mhm, mm,
there working, taking my classes and teaching, working on my PhD. And so I went on that study abroad program. And as soon as our the founder at the host school we were at, as soon as he found out that I was trying to find my family, he got information from me about the name and all of that. And girl, he went looking. In fact, everybody did. But the wildest thing
uh-huh.
was I wasn't in Ghana 24 hours before I found somebody who belonged to the same ethnic group that I belonged to in Ghana. I was at the Africa University College of Communication. We were there.
Mhm,
That was our sponsoring school. We
mhm,
were there the first day. The founder invited all of us students to a luncheon in the boardroom, and he invited the student council leadership to that luncheon with us. And so I sat with these three women, and one of them asked me if I was working on a particular project. And I said, yeah, I'm trying to find my family. I discovered that through DNA, we are Ga Adengbe from Ghana. And I'm looking for somebody who's Ga Adengbe. And one of the women sitting there right there with me, Lonnie, she said, I'm Ga Adengbe.
oh
Well, I tell
my
you,
God, that's divine order.
the table and the chairs just got out the way. We were moving, jumped up and hugged, and the ladies started screaming and clapping. And so
Mhm.
the students wanted to know what was going on, and they were saying, Carol found a cousin, Carol found a relative.
Oh,
And I was in Ghana less than 24 hours when
wow.
it happened, and things just started happening from there.
Oh,
It's exhilarating
oh, wow.
in this process to learn your people and
Yes.
to go to Africa and actually find them.
Wow. Wow. How important is it to know your family? I mean, to do your family tree. Why should we do our family tree and know our history?
Well, it tells you something about yourself and other members of the family. Just like you look at members of the family and people resemble each other
Mm-hmm,
in a
mm-hmm,
variety of ways. Maybe they look a little, or they sound like them, or they walk like them,
mm-hmm,
or something. It's the same thing I recognized when I was in Ghana. I saw people that it's the same thing in the Caribbean when I was living and working there. I saw people who look like people here. They
mm-hmm,
walked like them or they sounded like,
mm-hmm,
you know that through DNA, you are family. We're all family
mm-hmm.
somehow. During the
Wow.
transatlantic slave trade, we just got dropped off at different ports.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
But we're people who are family, we're people who are related, and you see it. And it tells you something about yourself.
Well, how did it change you? I mean, did you feel like you changed before you started the research, and how did it change your?
I started out as a little colored girl, and
Mhm.
then I became a Negro. And then then
Now,
I,
those are historical names, for
yeah,
different periods.
it was
Yeah.
a whole process until today. I'm an African American.
Uh-huh.
you know, but at each stage, it added a level of pride. I
Mm-hmm.
felt better about myself. Like I said, there were times when people made me feel like I did not belong and I need to go back to where I came from. Well,
Mm.
I did go back.
You did go back.
I just didn't relocate, not
Uh,
yet.
uh-huh.
It's
Uh-huh.
only one of the places that I have traced our family to. We have
Mm-hmm.
ties in Nigeria. I
Mm-hmm.
also found out why we have ties to people all over West Africa. And we couldn't figure out Why are we related to people in Cameroon? Why are we related to people in Ivory Coast? Definitely Ghana, definitely Nigeria. But then going to Ghana and sitting down and talking to family and historians, I got the sense of, well, why? Where I'm related to people all over the place. And they explained the migration, how our ethnic group started out in East Africa. And because of famine or because of conflict or because of drought, they would pick up and move. And everybody didn't pick up and move, but most did. And the same thing would happen. And they would pick up and move. And some people will stay. Well, it's because of that process and how some people stayed. I have relatives all over the place.
Oh, wow. And do you
And
still
just,
communicate with them today? The
huh?
ones you still in contact with them?
Oh, yes, because I'm going back. I'm working on a documentary about the process of finding my
Mhm,
my first Africa-born ancestor.
mhm,
And I've got to go back. I shot a lot of video footage. So did the students shoot a lot
mhm,
of stuff for me when I went the first time. And
mhm,
um, oh boy, I the interviews I did with family, with historians, with educators, it was extraordinary. So now I've got to go back because
mhm,
I have some more research I need to do at the archive. I have since found not just my ethnic group, but I found our DNA family, the family that
mhm,
connects us to the ancestor who was here and
mhm.
served in the Revolutionary War, the first one
Awesome.
that I found. So I'm telling you, I was so stunned to find them. And it was through my brother's DNA
Mhm,
that we were able to connect to them.
mhm,
Brother's DNA had that we were Ga Adengbe as an ethnic group. And in his on family tree, he connected by DNA to the
mhm.
man who connects us to our Ghana born ancestor. So we're all going back. He's
Wow.
taking me to meet my DNA family in Ghana. How
Wow.
about that?
I can't wait to see your pictures when you come back. Oh my gosh, what a journey. What a
Yeah.
journey. I mean, I can imagine when you see family, there's something that's divinely connected. You said like your voice and you're
Yes. I
looking at.
when I went to Somanya, and
Mhm,
that's a small community north of the capital of Accra, when I
mhm,
went to see family members in Somanya, I took two buses and two taxi cabs to get there. And I
mhm,
got out of the taxi cab when I got to the compound, and I couldn't get all the way out of the cab, Lonnie, for looking at this woman who
mhm.
reminded me of my grandmother. I just froze and I
Wow.
couldn't believe it. So I got myself out of that cab and I
Uh-huh.
told Sang Morky, who was
Mhm, mhm,
the ethnic group relative I met on the first day.
mhm,
I said, if
mhm,
that lady asks you why I'm staring at her, just
mhm,
tell her it reminds me of my grandmother. And I
mhm,
went and sat down, and this lady, she got up, and the way she walked was like my grandmother with arthritis. And she threw her head back when she was laughing, like my grandmother did. I
mhm,
tell you, I was just in
mhm,
disbelief. I just couldn't. But see, during slavery, they tried to take everything away from us, but you
mhm.
can't take the DNA
Mm-mm,
away.
mm-mm. Tried to
It's
separate our
in us.
families, yes.
It's in us, and you see it. And
Mhm.
I saw my grandmother in that woman, and I was just,
How did
I
your other family, when you told them about your discovery, what did your other family, your sisters and your brothers feel?
in shock.
Yeah.
It's just like, because every day I was emailing everybody back in, letting them know. I
Mhm,
don't know if this is live or Memorex, but
mhm,
believe me when I tell you, things are happening. And
mhm,
I felt like it was happening and I was just present. I felt like there was a force that was in charge. It's like the
mhm.
ancestors got together
Yeah, and said,
and
Carol's
made
gonna meet
sure,
our family. Yeah,
yes, they
yes.
were
Oh,
making
wow.
things happen.
Yeah,
You
yeah.
know, they put me in front of and among the right people
Mm-hmm.
would help me with
Mm-hmm.
what I was trying to do, and they did.
Wow.
It
Wow.
was
What a
just,
journey, Carol.
it was,
What a
it was,
journey. But
it was
when are you
extraordinary.
going back to Ghana? I think you're going back this year, right?
Yes, we are.
Wow. Oh, wow. Now, you got to come back on because I got to hear these stories and I want to show some pictures. I mean, of the trip and everything. So, how long are you planning to be over there?
About a month and a half.
Okay, about a month and a half.
Yeah.
Okay, that is so wonderful. And then what recommendations would you give to somebody that is just
Yeah.
now getting started?
Yes, get started. Talk to
Mhm,
the most senior person in your family because I noticed that like my grandmother and my other elders, they all tell the truth. They're like little kids. They tell the good, bad, and the ugly about everything.
mhm,
And they, as you do your research, they may be a little off about some things, but not really. They may
uh-huh,
be a little off on dates, except my grandmother's dates were accurate in that Bible, but they
uh-huh,
may be off on some things, but
mhm,
essentially they tell you what you need to do to get started. Record
mhm,
the interview if you can, but
mhm.
get as much information out of them as you can to help you do your research. But it's never too late.
Yeah,
It's
you
never
know,
too
we
late.
have everything in front of us. We have these cell phones, we can record. I mean, it's not like you were doing the research back in the 60s where
That's right, because there
you
was
didn't have,
no
we
internet
have
when I
everything.
got started.
Uh,
No internet. I was just on the phone doing research by paper, going to
uh,
the library. I didn't have the archive here,
mhm,
the Massachusetts archive to go to, but that's
mhm,
when my sister Beverly joined me in doing the
mhm,
family tree when she retired in 2006, and she was right there in Boston and could
mhm.
go to the archive and
All
go to state
right.
agencies to get information.
Okay, Carol,
But
well,
get
we're running
started.
out of time. I'm just so glad that you were on to share your information with S. Yolanda in the Know. We're going to bring you back now. Now, listen,
Okay.
honey, she's going to come back. We're going to see all these pictures of her trip to Ghana and meeting her family. But thank you, Carol, for being on this
Thank you.
week's program of S. Yolanda in the Know. And guess what, everybody? I'll see you next week. Love you. And you can't do anything about it.